No, he's come up with a book of trash. That's all that is the book of trash. Lies, lies, and more lies, and lies on top of lies.
Did Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, really have a child with her own father? This shocking rumor has been whispered for years, but is there any truth to it? Aretha had a tough childhood, facing many challenges at a young age.
Whatever your mental attitude is, has a lot to do with what you're gonna be.
People have wondered about the true father of her first child, born when she was just 12 years old. Could it really have been her father, a well-known pastor? Or is this just a terrible rumor? Let's dive into the facts and try to find the truth behind this disturbing story.
And your dad was a minister?
Unfortunately, I was not. I don't think one should be pushed into something that you don't really want to do. It could have been disastrous.
Yep.
Aretha Louise Franklin was born on March 25, 1942, in Memphis, Tennessee. Her parents were Barbara and Clarence Levin, C.L. Franklin. Aretha's father, C.L. Franklin, was a famous Baptist minister and preacher. Her mother, Barbara, was a talented pianist and singer. When Aretha was just 2 years old, her family moved to Buffalo, New York, and later to Detroit, Michigan. It was in Detroit where C.L. Franklin became the pastor of the New Bethel Baptist Church. While Aretha's family seemed like a happy one from the outside, things were not perfect. Her father, C.L. Franklin, had affairs, which put a lot of stress on the family. In fact, one of his relationships resulted in him getting a young girl at the church pregnant. On the other hand, Aretha's mother, Barbara, also had a child with another man. This child was Aretha's half-brother, Vaughn. When Aretha was 6 years old, her parents decided to separate. Barbara moved back to Buffalo, taking Vaughn with her. However, she left her other children with CL in Detroit. Aretha was very close to her mother, so this separation deeply hurt her. Her sister, Carolyn, said that Aretha cried for days after their mother left. Despite her parents' problems, Aretha's father was still respected in the church. However, he had a reputation for attracting women, and it was obvious to his children. Aretha herself said in an interview that she and her siblings would see women flirting with their father, even sitting in the front row of the church in short skirts to get his attention.
You were very close with your dad.
Yes.
Terrible thing happened, right? There was a burglary and he was shot?
Yes. He was comatose for 6 years.
Talking about Aretha's father, Clarence LaVaughn Franklin, better known as C.L. Franklin, wasn't just Aretha Franklin's father. He was a famous preacher and a big figure in his own right. Born in Mississippi to sharecropper parents, Willie and Rachel Walker, C.L.'s early life wasn't easy. His father, Willie, left the family when he was only 4 years old. This left his mother, Rachel, to marry another man named Henry Franklin, whose last name the family took on.
Whatever your mental attitude is, has a lot to do with what you're gonna be.
Despite the struggles of growing up without his real father, CL found his purpose early in life. At just 16 years old, he became a preacher. At first, he traveled around, preaching to different black communities before he settled down at a church in Memphis, Tennessee. In 1944, he moved to Buffalo, New York, and then, in 1946, became the pastor of New Bethel Baptist Church in Detroit. It was in Detroit where his fame really took off. However, not everything about CL was positive. While he was famous and influential, his personal life and behavior weren't always so great.
So now, I know I'm about to leave here. I'm hanging.
There were rumors that the church was the scene of some wild and shocking parties. Even singer Ray Charles, who was known for living a pretty wild life himself, said that what happened in CL's church surprised him. Other people like R&B and gospel singer Billy Preston said that the church was full of hypocrisy. He mentioned that some of the church members who created music were gay men, though they were often looked down upon by others outside the church. CL's relationships also caused controversy. He married his first wife, Aline Gaines, in 1934, when he was only 18 years old, but the marriage ended soon after. He then married gospel singer Barbara Siggers in 1936. They had 4 children together, including Aretha Franklin. However, CL also fathered a child with a young 12-year-old girl named Mildred Jennings, a member of his church at the time. His marriage with Barbara didn't last either. They separated, though they never officially divorced. Barbara sadly passed away in 1952, and even more shockingly, CL didn't attend her funeral. The sadness in Aretha's life continued after her mother passed away from a heart attack. This loss left Aretha heartbroken. She said she could not fully describe the pain she felt. After her mother's death, her grandmother Rachel and other women, including gospel singer Mahalia Jackson, helped take care of Aretha and her siblings. Aretha started singing in her father's church at a young age. By the time she was 10, she knew she wanted to become a gospel singer. Her father encouraged her talent, and she often sang at church services. As a teenager, Aretha traveled with her father to different places for his speaking events. The funny thing is that C.L. Franklin was known as the man with the million-dollar voice. His sermons were very popular, and people across the country wanted to hear him preach. He became famous for his powerful speeches and was even paid up to $4,000 per appearance, which was a lot of money at the time. His sermons were recorded and sold, and he was heard on the radio every Sunday, spreading his message far and wide. Two of his most famous sermons were "The Eagle Stirreth Her Nest" and "Dry Bones in the Valley." In fact, "The Eagle Stirreth Her Nest" was added to the National Recording Registry of the Library of Congress in 2011 because it was considered so important. And let's not forget his singing voice and his ability to whoop, a special style of preaching that combined music and speech, often used in black churches.
That went on and obtained in that country.
The questionable behavior that surrounded C.L. Franklin extended to rumors about his own daughter Aretha when she became pregnant as a teenager. Speculation swirled around Detroit that her father might have been the one to father her child. The environment of the Holy Ghost music making, an adult scene that CL promoted coupled with Aretha's insecurities stemming from her mother Barbara's departure due to CL's promiscuity, likely contributed to Aretha's own struggles with relationships and intimacy throughout her life. God has had a hard time getting man to understand his concern about mankind, the allegations of paternity. Before we address the rumor about Aretha and her father, it's important to remember that C.L. Franklin played a huge role in her early music career. His influence and support helped her start on the path to becoming the Queen of Soul. As a young gospel singer, Franklin spent summers on the gospel circuit in Chicago and stayed with Mavis Staples' family. According to music producer Quincy Jones, while Franklin was still young, Dinah Washington let him know that Aretha was the next one. Franklin and her father traveled to California, where she met singer Sam Cooke, as well as Ray Charles and Sam Cooke, two of Franklin's greatest influences. However, their family life was filled with challenges. For years, people have speculated about the story of Aretha Franklin having her first child, Clarence, when she was only 12 years old. One rumor that has been hard to shake off is the idea that her father, C.L. Franklin, a famous preacher, was the child's father. This belief grew stronger because she named her first son Clarence, which was her father's name too. However, Aretha never publicly confirmed who Clarence's father was, leaving people to guess. Her brother, Cecil Franklin, who was also her manager, shared a different story in an interview. He said that the father of Aretha's first child was just a boy from her school. Cecil doubted there was much interest from the boy or Aretha in each other. Aretha also described the event in her memoir as not a big deal. She didn't want to focus on it too much. Cecil said their father didn't get too mad about it either. He took it as a lesson to teach his other children about the consequences of sexual activity. C.L. also went ahead to say that their father, C.L. Franklin, was also a voice in the civil rights movement. During the 1950s and 1960s, he worked to end unfair practices against black workers in Detroit. He was friends with Martin Luther King Jr. and even helped lead a big freedom march in Detroit in 1963, just months before Dr. King's famous "I Have a Dream" speech. But CL's life took a tragic turn in 1979. On June 10th, he was shot twice at close range during an attempted robbery at his home in Detroit. The attack left him in a coma for 5 years. His children, including Aretha, took him home after 6 months, where he received constant care. Sadly, C.L. Franklin never woke up from his coma. He passed away on July 27, 1984, at the age of 69. At the age of 15, Aretha got pregnant again. This time, the father was Edward Jordan, as she revealed in a handwritten will found after she passed away in 2019. On August 31, 1957, she had her second son, Edward Duran Franklin, named after his father. According to her memoir, her father understood this second pregnancy as well, but Cecil had a different view. He said their father was very unhappy about it. Aretha's early pregnancies were not something she liked to talk about. She kept that part of her life private, and in interviews she stayed quiet about it. Her grandmother and sister Irma helped take care of her kids while she worked on her singing career. Even with her busy life, she made sure to visit her children as often as she could. Aretha's romantic life had its ups and downs. She married Ted White in 1961 when she was just 18 years old. They met at a party in 1954, years before they got married. But their marriage was not happy. Ted White was and Aretha suffered greatly during their time together. Her brother Cecil spoke about Ted's violent behavior, saying it only got worse as time went on. Despite singing songs about strength and respect, Aretha couldn't escape Ted's abuse. She even turned to alcohol to deal with the pain. Sadly, this affected her performances, but because she was so talented, people didn't always notice. After years of abuse, Aretha finally left Ted in 1968 and divorced him in 1969. This gave her a fresh start and allowed her to reclaim her life. Her second marriage was to actor Glenn Turman in 1978, but it didn't last. They separated in 1982 and divorced in 1984. Aretha's family was always important to her. Her sisters Irma and Carolyn were also singers, and they often sang background vocals on her songs. The bond between them was strong. Sadly, Aretha lost both of her sisters to cancer, and her brother Cecil also died from lung cancer in 1989. Aretha shared deep connections with the people closest to her. In 2012, she announced plans to marry Willie Wilkerson, a man she had been with for many years. But shortly after, the engagement was called off for reasons that were never shared with the public. Even though her love life was sometimes complicated, Aretha's friendships in the music industry were just as important to her. She had close relationships with other great artists like Dionne Warwick, Mavis Staples, and Whitney Houston. Aretha and Whitney's friendship was special.
I look to you.
Aretha first met Whitney Houston as a child in the 1970s and became a close family friend. Whitney even called her Auntie Ree, a title that showed how much she respected and loved Aretha. Aretha watched Whitney grow into a superstar and was heartbroken when Whitney passed away in 2012. Aretha was supposed to sing at her memorial service, but she had to cancel due to health problems. In her later years, Aretha continued to shine as a performer. One of her most famous moments was in 2009 when she sang My Country, 'Tis of Thee at President Barack Obama's inauguration. Her voice was incredible, and the large church hat she wore became a topic of conversation around the world.
My country, 'tis of thee.
Aretha also received a lot of awards during this time, including an honorary degree from Yale University in 2010. But despite all her success, Aretha faced some personal struggles. She often felt insecure about herself, worrying that she wasn't good enough as a singer, a woman, or even a mother. These insecurities sometimes made her feel jealous of other female singers, like Diana Ross and Whitney Houston. In 1989, after recording a song with Whitney, Aretha made a comment that Whitney lacked maturity as an artist. It showed that even though Aretha loved Whitney, she still felt a need to defend her own place as the Queen of Soul. Aretha's health became a bigger issue in her later years. She struggled with her weight throughout her life, losing and gaining weight many times. She also had a history of smoking and drinking, which affected her health. Although she quit smoking in 1992, she admitted that quitting made her gain even more weight. In 2010, she had surgery for a tumor, but she made sure to tell her fans that it wasn't as serious as people thought. She even lost 85 pounds after the surgery, although she denied having any weight loss surgery. Even with all these challenges, Aretha kept performing. In 2011, she returned to the stage with a powerful performance in Chicago and went on several tours. However, her health problems forced her to cancel some shows in 2013.
Because I just knew that that was the last time the night before that I saw her alive. And I wasn't going to see her again. And I just lost it.
Despite facing serious health challenges, she remained hopeful and optimistic about her recovery. In an interview, she talked about experiencing a miraculous healing, but also understood that she needed to focus on her health before fully returning to the stage. Her passion for performing was strong, but her body was starting to show signs that it was time to slow down. In February 2017, Aretha had to make a hard choice. She announced that 2017 would be her last year of touring. Her health had taken a toll, and she knew she couldn't continue performing the way she used to. Still, she tried to schedule a few concerts for 2018, but her doctor advised against it, and she had to cancel them. It was a heartbreaking decision for her, but she had to put her well-being first. On August 13, 2018, news broke that Aretha was gravely ill. She was at her home in Detroit, surrounded by family and close friends. She was in hospice care, meaning doctors knew she was nearing the end of her life. Many famous people, including Stevie Wonder and Jesse Jackson, visited her during these difficult days. Despite all the love and support, Aretha passed away on August 16, 2018, at the age of 76. She died from a rare form of pancreatic cancer, which had been causing her pain for some time. Her death shocked the world. Aretha was more than just a singer. She was a symbol of strength, talent, and soul. Many celebrities, politicians, and fans spoke about how much she meant to them. Former President Barack Obama, who was moved by her singing at his inauguration, said that Aretha helped shape the American experience. Civil rights leader Al Sharpton called her a civil rights and humanitarian icon, pointing out how much of an impact she had on music and society. Aretha's funeral was a huge event. Just like she wanted, her service was led by Reverend Jasper Williams Jr. of Salem Baptist Church in Atlanta. But the eulogy given by Reverend Williams sparked some controversy. Many people, including Aretha's nephew Vaughn, were upset. They felt that Williams' speech was too political and didn't truly honor Aretha's life and legacy. Vaughn expressed disappointment, saying that the eulogy didn't properly celebrate who Aretha was as a person. Richie Unterberger, a music writer, said that Aretha Franklin was one of the giants of soul music. Her music mixed many styles, including gospel, blues, R&B, and pop, making her songs stand out. Aretha had a powerful mezzo-soprano voice, which means she could sing high and low notes with great control. She was not only an incredible singer, but also a smart musician. She had a way of playing the piano that moved people and made her performances unforgettable. People who worked with her, like Elton John and Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones, were big fans of her music. Elton John once said that her piano playing was inspirational, showing that she wasn't just a great singer, but also an amazing musician. Aretha started singing when she was very young. Her first album, Songs of Faith, came out when she was only 14. Even though she was just a teenager, her voice was already strong and filled with emotion. A music producer named Jerry Wexler said that her voice at that age was not that of a child, but rather of an ecstatic hierophant, someone who leads others in spiritual ceremonies. This showed how deeply connected Aretha was to her gospel roots and how her voice carried the weight of her experiences. Her song Respect became an anthem for many people during the 1960s, especially those fighting for civil rights and women's rights. People loved how she demanded respect and equality through her music, making her a symbol of strength and empowerment. After her death, fans found special ways to remember her. In New York City, they added unofficial tributes to 2 subway stations, Franklin Street in Manhattan and Franklin Avenue in Brooklyn. These stations were originally named for other people, but fans felt it was important to honor Aretha. Although these tributes were taken down later, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority put up permanent stickers that say, "Respect," next to the signs at both stations. This simple act shows how much she meant to her fans. On October 9, 2018, during the American Music Awards, a special tribute to Aretha was held. The show featured stars like Gladys Knight and Mary, who performed gospel songs, including some from Aretha's famous 1972 album, Amazing Grace. This heartfelt performance helped remind everyone of her incredible talent and the impact she had on music. A few months later, on January 13, 2019, CBS and the Recording Academy hosted a concert called Aretha, a Grammy celebration for the Queen of Soul. This concert took place at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles. Many famous artists, like Alicia Keys and John Legend, performed in her honor. The event was recorded and aired on March 10th, allowing even more people to celebrate her life in music. At the 61st Annual Grammy Awards, a tribute to Aretha's life and career ended the ceremony. Fantasia, Andra Day, and Yolanda Adams sang her hit song, A Natural Woman, leaving everyone in the audience feeling her powerful presence. It was a touching moment that reminded everyone of her legacy. Aretha's influence spread worldwide. In June 2023, a musical called Aretha, A Love Letter to the Queen of Soul, opened at the Sydney Opera House. Directed by Jada Alberts, this show featured many talented performers and a live band. It celebrated Aretha's songs and life, reaching fans in Australia. Over the years, Aretha received many honors. She got her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1979 and was the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. In 1994, she received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in culture. In 2010, Rolling Stone magazine named Aretha the greatest singer of all time. Her songs and voice touched the hearts of many. After her surgery in 2011, the Grammys honored her with a performance of her classic songs, showing how much she was loved. Aretha Franklin's legacy lives on through her music. She was not just a singer, she was a symbol of hope and strength. The city of Detroit even renamed a street after her, called Aretha Franklin Way, and in 2021, a post office was named in her honor. Her music and influence will always be remembered. Aretha Franklin showed the world the power of song and spirit, and her impact will be felt for generations to come.